Hello, my name's Jade and today I'm going to be talking about all the books I read in October. I read 10 books in October, 5 of them being novels, 4 of them being graphic novels, and 1, I believe, novella. I think it's too long to be a short story. I didn't actually check though. I'm presuming a novella. I should also quickly mention though, I did read the majority of Gallant by V.E. Schwab in October. It's just that I technically finished it on the 1st of November. And I also listened to the majority of Meddling Kids. I'll get it out, you can't see it here. Meddling Kids by Edgar Cantero. But I've yet to finish this one. This is my currently reading stack and it's getting a bit out of hand. Yeah, let's get into it. The first book I read this last month was Verity by Colleen Hoover. This had been on my TBR for a long time. I've only ever read Ugly Love by Colleen Hoover, but I definitely have been intrigued by a lot of her other books, especially the more like scary, thrillery, horror-y ones. This being one of them. I think she has another one. It's supposed to be quite dark and gripping. It's about a struggling writer. She's kind of down on her luck because of various circumstances. She's not got a lot of money. She gets offered this job to fill in for an existing writer's series because that existing writer had an accident and can no longer write the rest of them. And so she goes and lives in the house of this writer with her husband and her child, and weird things start happening. I had heard so much about how this one's really scary and like twisty and you're never going to predict what happens and it's going to keep you up at night, and so when you know that going into it, not once was I scared. And I immediately had like 2 or 3 predictions and I just kept like yelling them at the book because I was so sure of them. Weren't exactly correct, but to be honest, they were pretty close. So, not great. I didn't love this one, to be honest. I found it, like I said, mildly predictable, not particularly scary. I mean, it was an entertaining ride. I will say that about Colleen Hoover. I found that with Ugly Love as well. I definitely think I enjoyed Ugly Love more. But then if I read it today, I don't know if it'd be the same. It might have been the time that I read it. Both of them I found to be extremely addicting and entertaining and really easy to get through. That's definitely something that I feel like is a thread throughout all of her books. Is something I've heard come up again and again when people talk about them. I kind of had fun yelling at it. I kind of had fun at how stupid things were at times. So I by no means hated this. I by no means didn't enjoy myself, which is kind of fine. I would give it a 4 out of 10, I think. I audiobooks this one as well, actually, I should mention. Narrated by Vanessa Johansson and Amy Langdon. I think this is what my laptop says, it's quite far away. Yeah, oh, and I've also read, there was like a collector's edition. I do have it actually, but I'm borrowing it, and so it's in my bag right now, and I'm not going to pull it out, I'm sorry. Insert picture here. There's a bonus chapter, and I think because the end is quite open to interpretation, I think a lot of people wanted more to kind of have a little bit more resolution, and I don't think that's what this chapter does. It kind of in a way does, but not in any solid form. It's just more of like a suggestion, and it takes the story in a different direction, and initially I was like, what was the point in that? It just makes everything kind of worse. But I do think it's clever, and I think it's kind of true to life, and I think it does put doubts into certain theories. I don't know, I kind of like it in the end now, I think. Next up was Horrorstör by Grady Hendrix. This is my second Grady Hendrix novel. I read My Best Friend's Exorcism, I want to say in August, at some point over the summer. I'll link the video where I discuss it down below. Oh, I also think I have a book discussion on Ugly Love. If I do, I'll link that down below and you can find me from years past. I was a bit like this with My Best Friend's Exorcism. Again, it was like too predictable for my liking. This one, less so. I had a lot more fun with this one, I think. I also audiobooked this one, rated by Ty Salmons and Bronson Pinchot. What it was pitched to me as a haunted IKEA. A really fun concept, and I think that's one of my favourite things about this, the concept. And the physical book is really fun. It looks like an IKEA catalogue, and it's got forms in the front. The author photo I think is one of my favourite parts. It's so much fun. I love the idea behind this. I will say the second half just felt a little wonky to me, and I don't know why. I just struggled concentrating as much. I wasn't having as much fun as I was in the beginning. Again, it wasn't particularly scary to me. It got quite like actiony, and yeah, I just didn't love the second half as much. And I was wondering if maybe it was because of the audiobook, because I was listening to it and I wasn't concentrating as much and my head was able to drift easier. But I really liked the narration. I loved the accents she did, and I don't think I'd want to read it without that kind of interpretation, that lens. It was fun. It just wasn't the best for me. I would give it 6 out of 10, I think. Next up was the first book that I did an audiobook, and that is Book of Night by Holly Black. This is my first Holly Black novel, and it's also her first adult novel. There are a few other books that I definitely am interested in. Premise behind this one, like I don't think I knew much going into it. I heard someone say it's like Ninth House meets the Night Circus, and I was sold. I love the Night Circus. I really enjoyed Ninth House. It has shadow magic in it. Our main character, she's a bartender. She used to kind of get into dodgy situations. She would like steal things and, you know, just one of those people with odd jobs. And she kind of gets caught up in, I can't even remember fully what she gets caught up in. She gets caught up in shady crap again. Quite mysterious, so I don't want to say any more than that, I think. I really loved the world this was set in. I definitely had strong Ninth House vibes, just like the magic system reminded me a lot of the magic system in Ninth House, and like even the main characters at times reminded me of each other. Not so much the Night Circus, cannot say there's many comparisons there, but definitely Ninth House. I had a really big love-hate relationship with this book, and I feel so conflicted. Like I don't even know what to rate it really. Like I said, I loved the premise and the world and the magic system. And there are parts of this where I really connected with the characters and I thought they were coming across really great. Like the atmosphere and the vibes were immaculate and the writing was really nice a lot of the time. But then at other times it would definitely be too over-explanatory and quite slow and quite dense. It felt dense and slow quite a lot for me. It felt like a chore to get through a lot of the time, which isn't a great feeling. So conflicted. The end was pretty good though. I really like the end, especially the very end, the way we leave off. I think is the first book in a duology. I'm so excited to read the duology now because of the ending, and so in my mind that like bumps it up. So I don't think the writing is great in here. I think it could have been shorter, and I think like the editing could have been cleaner. I'm looking at a window and it looks like there's a face in the window. It's really freaking me out. What did I decide? I think, see, I said a 7 or 8. If it wasn't for the writing style and the fact that like it felt like a chore, it could have been easily a 9, I think, because of how much I liked it. The fact that like I was reluctant to read it, like that's really not a good sign. So I'm gonna say an 8 for now, and we'll see how time makes me feel. Next up is The Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde by, oh, I do not have the book so I cannot remember his name. I believe it's Robert Louis Stevenson though. This is the novella. It's a classic. I listened to this one and it was narrated by Jack Urry and his rendition was fantastic. I know he does the horror gothic type books from that time. I know he's done The Picture of Dorian Gray, at least. He's really good. He's definitely puts on the creepy voice. And I really loved listening to this. And I did quite enjoy it. If you don't know what it's about, then I encourage you going in not knowing what it's about, because I knew what happened. Like ultimately I didn't know what the story was, but I knew what the main thing is, and I think it's still enjoyable having known that, but I do think it'd be even more enjoyable if you don't know. It makes me think of when I read Carmilla and the fact that like if you know what's going on sometimes, how it ruins the book. I was really enjoying it up until the last chapter. The last chapter is the biggest offender to me because it is one of those very old-fashioned chapters that like wraps everything up and says everything, and up until that point is slow and mysterious. It was what happened at the time. It's hard to say that's a criticism. I just rather it wasn't that way. I also wish it was longer just so we could have that suspense build up a little more. I wish like some of the characters started guessing at what was going on, but again I wonder if that's more of like a modern reader looking back on it. And so but I did quite enjoy it. I enjoyed it more than I thought I would. I'd give this one a 7 out of 10. I think it's pretty solid as far as classics go. It's really short, it's really easy, it's quite creepy. It's the suspense of it, it's the mystery. And the vibes. It's got like Victorian London at night vibes. Next up are the first 2 of the 4 graphic novels. Might as well talk about them together, and that is Garlic and the Vampire and Garlic and the Witch by Bree Poulsen. These are about this little garlic girl, and vampire takes up residence in an abandoned castle near their village. These little vegetable people, they help out this witch to grow other vegetables to sell to the humans of the village. They're worried about the humans and the vampire, like, you know, eating them, and so they send Garlic to go talk to him because she's garlic. Vampires don't like garlic. She's quite anxious and quite shy and stressed a lot, and so it's so sweet, her kind of conquering her fears and becoming braver. She's so cute. It's such a sweet story. I really enjoyed both of them. I do think I preferred the vampire one because I feel like the storyline was a little stronger. I don't know if Bree is going to keep writing these. I would definitely be interested in. The art style is beautiful. I love the colors, I love the details, and just like the vibes is very autumnal. I don't know what else to say. They're really fun, really cute. I would give both of them a 7 out of 10. Highly recommend it if you're interested. Next up is another audiobook that I listened to. That is Angelika Frankenstein Makes Her Match by Sally Thorne. This one is narrated by Moira Quirk, and she did a fantastic job. I loved listening to her. I definitely am going to look out for her in the future. This is my first Sally Thorne novel. I know she wrote The Hating Game and some other ones, and after reading this I definitely want to check out more of her work. She writes those kind of rom-coms, kind of like Christina Lauren, who's my current fix of rom-coms. So this is about Angelika Frankenstein, sister of Victor Frankenstein if you didn't already know, and her brother Victor Frankenstein, you know, originally he created Frankenstein's monster. He brought someone back to life. At the beginning of this book, both Victor and Angelika bring people back to life. Angelika with the hopes that this man will one day want to marry her because she's kind of running out of options. She's kind of getting older and no one wants to marry her, and she really wants to get married and have a family. It's so much fun and it's got more depth to it as well than I was expecting. Like, I heard someone say that and I was like, okay, but it does. Our main character Angelika especially, but other characters will learn some really valuable lessons, and like from a time period perspective, like her being a woman and constantly fighting for herself was really intriguing. I love that about her. Do you think, again, somewhat similarly to Horrorstör, it felt a little wonky to me at one point. I want to say it's like halfway through. It might only be like a third of the way through. If you've read it, it's the bonfire scene when they're all talking and an agreement comes to pass, and that situation I didn't love that direction it went in. People were so forward so many times. Like at one time a guy literally says, "Now come here and kiss me," like seriously, and I was like, what is happening? I mean, it's fun. It was funny. I enjoyed it. My favourite part was like the opening and when we're trying to figure things out, the atmosphere there. I did come the end, really enjoy the end as well. I think I started running out of steam. It felt quite long. It doesn't look long. It's only, I think, 300 and something pages. It's only like 350 pages, but it felt long. But overall, I had a lot of fun. That's the word that comes to mind, most fun. It's definitely like an October Halloween read, but by no means spooky, like much more of a light-hearted Halloween read. It's just the fact that they bring this guy back to life is the only really Halloween aspect. I mean, they live in a big old manor back in Victorian, like pre-Victorian, isn't it even? Like olden times. Yeah, I'd give this one an 8 out of 10. Next up is Wild and Wicked Things by Francesca May. I'd had my eye on this one for a while. I'd heard it be described about, like, this is really the month where I just like heard random little bits about books and just went for it. People can say this is like Practical Magic meets The Great Gatsby because it's about witches and dark magic on this little island, so it has that kind of small seaside town very specifically, atmosphere. But it's set in the 1920s and there are a couple big parties and things. I mean, I didn't know much going into it, and I don't feel like you should know much going into it. In a world of 1920s decadence and excess, Francesca May's irresistible debut weaves a dazzling tale of dark magic, romance and murder. It is queer. Yeah, Annie moves to Crow Island, which is this mysterious island. Magic is supposed to be like illegal, it's a big no-no, but magic does happen quite a lot on this little island, and she gets sucked into some things. I will say that comparison about Practical Magic is no joke. Like, I mean, initially I was like, yeah, the vibes are the same. More so than that, it was so similar what was going on that I started guessing that maybe this is gonna happen. My camera cut me off, how rude. I was saying about how I found the writing style telly, as in like show don't tell, there's a lot of telling. Yeah, a lot. For me, that kind of over exposition-y, like it could have been pulled back. There were moments of prettiness, but there was something about it that I didn't love. Like, I don't think the rhythm was the smoothest. But like I said, I did end up really enjoying it. I loved the world, I love the characters, so it's hard to say. It's annoying. The Practical Magic thing is the thing that's like sticking in me the most. I love the cover for this, and like when you hear like witches, dark magic, 1920s, queer, so much potential. And I'm not saying the potential wasn't necessarily met, it just wasn't, I don't know. I think it had potential to be something I really, really loved. Like an all-time favourite, and I just don't think it was that. And I don't know how to rate this one either because it's very similar to my feelings on Book of Night. I've literally written in my notes, it could be a 7, could be an 8, could be a 9. Because in the end I really enjoyed it and I really don't want to leave this world. And it all felt so real. I'm gonna go down the middle and say 8. That sounds the smartest. Even though it might not technically deserve an 8 similarly to Book of Night, I think they both have personal criticisms, if nothing else. But in the end I enjoyed both of them enough that they deserve an 8, I think. This one's gonna be short and sweet. The next one I read was Pumpkinheads by Rainbow Rowell. Read this every year since it came out. It came out in 2021. Every October since then I've read it again, so that's 4 times now. And I was considering like maybe I shouldn't reread it this year, like 4 times is a lot, maybe I should give it a break. But I didn't, and I'm so glad I didn't. It's so much fun, it's so cute. I love the art style and the color scheme. I love the story. Peak autumn vibes, like in a cozy, cutesy, little bit of romance, YA vibe. I can't even remember what my point was at the beginning. Like what was I saying? Yeah, it's amazing. If you've not read it yet, I highly recommend it. 10 out of 10, Pumpkinheads, it's one of my favorites. And then the last graphic novel I read, or you know, book in general, I read this month was The Me You Love in the Dark by Scotty Young and George Corona. I bought this much earlier in the year, but I was saving it for Halloween because, like, technically categorized as a drama, horror, romance, so I thought it would be fitting. Cannot remember her name. She's an artist. Ro moves into this house and it was sold to her with the claim that it's haunted, and she wanted that inspiration because her art's been suffering, and it is in fact haunted, and a strange relationship sparks between the two of them. I went into it kind of skeptical when I kind of realized what the premise was gonna be, but I ended up being pleasantly surprised. It's very strange, and I love that about it. I definitely enjoyed the art. I ended up being a little underwhelmed. There's definitely like a hard kind of message in here, and I think it's a little too on the nose, and also kind of like a little underdeveloped, like in that it was just like very straightforward and pushed to the front. I think it could have been very creepy and slow, and like this slow dawning of what's going on. And we all know what I'm gonna say. You've heard me talk about any graphic novel before. It was too short. There wasn't enough time to build that up, and I understand that this is what it's like with graphic novels. They need to be series. They all need to be like, just make it a little duology. Just like double the volumes, double the issues. I think could have solved the problem. I enjoyed it nonetheless. I liked what it was trying to do. I overall liked the story. It was strange and interesting. So I think I'd give this one a 6.5 out of 10. And those were all the books I read this October. If you've read any of these and you have any thoughts, please let me know down below. And likewise, let me know what you read in October. What was the favourite book you read? If I had to pick a favourite, it's really hard not to say Pumpkinheads because I've read it a million times. I feel like that doesn't count. Book of Night, Angelika and Frankenstein, or Wild and Wicked Things. I feel like it has to be Wild and Wicked Things. Like I did in the end. I really enjoyed it. That's it. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you have a spooktacular morning, afternoon, evening / night. My name's Jade. I hope I see you again next time. Goodbye! I completely forgot to mention as well, I got the Waterstones exclusive edition of Book of Night, and look at those pages. How could you not? I really love this cover.